Escambia County deputies say 26-year-old Téé Bennett was murdered by a U.S. Marine. And her best friend says Téé was a single mother going back to school for a business degree.
In the coastal city of Pensacola, Florida, December brings a gentle chill to the air and the warm glow of holiday lights to neighborhood homes. It's a time of year that normally brings joy and anticipation, but December 2024 would forever change the landscape of this Gulf Coast community.
He had Googled things like, what does a dead body look like after 2 days? How many prostitute murders go unsolved? Does someone scream if they're being strangled?
Behind the cheerful facade of holiday preparations, a tragedy was unfolding, one that would expose the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of ordinary life. Before we continue, if you value in-depth coverage of significant true crime cases told with respect and accuracy, please subscribe to Law and Crime Stories and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light.
Let me just make this clear, because I'm not begging nobody to be in my life, and trust me, with or without you, I'm good, I promise you. The real question is you good without me?
This is the story of Téé Bennett, a 26-year-old woman whose life was cut tragically short. But before we delve into the circumstances of her death, it's important to remember who she was in life: a daughter, a friend, and most importantly, a devoted mother to an 8-year-old son who affectionately called her Chicken Nugget. Friends described Téé as vibrant and full of life. She had dreams that extended far beyond her present circumstances. She was pursuing education in cosmetology and nursing, building toward a future that would provide stability and opportunity for herself and her son. Those who knew her speak of her humor, her kindness, and her unwavering dedication to creating a better life. Jessica Ramirez, who had been friends with Téé since their middle school days in Texas, remembers her fondly.
Téé was the most humblest, funniest girl I've literally ever met in my life. Like, there was not ever a dull moment with her.
The bond between Jessica and Téé had remained strong, despite the distance that separated them after Téé moved to Florida earlier in 2024. Recently, Jessica had shared the news of her own pregnancy with Téé, excited that her friend would become an auntie to her child. Friday, December 13, 2024, began as an ordinary day in Pensacola. The weather was mild, typical for early winter in the Florida Panhandle. For Téé Bennett, it would be her last day alive. The timeline of events on that fateful Friday would later be pieced together by investigators, creating a chilling narrative of calculated malice. At approximately 10:30 a.m., a young Marine named Willie Ellington, just 20 years old and stationed at NAS Pensacola, rented a car from a local agency. Ellington had been in Pensacola only since September, having been assigned to Marine Aviation Training Support Group 23 for specialized training. Later that morning, surveillance cameras at the Navy Exchange captured Ellington purchasing a rolling duffel bag. The timestamp on the receipt would later prove crucial to investigators. The purchase was made less than an hour before his meeting with Téé Bennett. Around 4 p.m., Téé was seen entering room 130 at the Sweet Dreams Inn on Plantation Road. Shortly thereafter, Ellington arrived at the same location. Security footage would later confirm his presence and the rental car in the parking lot. What happened inside room 130 remains known only to Ellington and his victim. But the evidence discovered later would tell a horrific story of violence and premeditation. The following day, Saturday, December 14th, concern began to grow among Téé's friends and family. Calls to her phone went straight to voicemail. Text messages remained undelivered. This silence was deeply out of character for Téé, who typically maintained regular contact with loved ones, especially when it came to her son. "We were all trying to be like detectives," Jessica Ramirez later told reporters, trying to figure out where she was. The worry intensified when they discovered her phone was not just unanswered, but disconnected. The battery had died. As the hours passed without contact, Téé's family reached out to the Sweet Dreams Inn, pleading with staff to check on her room. What they discovered would launch a full-scale investigation. The scene at room 130 presented investigators with a troubling tableau. The door was ajar, but Téé was nowhere to be found. Her car remained in the parking lot, ruling out the possibility that she had simply driven away. 2 cell phones were discovered in the bathtub, both wet and inoperable. A single false eyelash lay on the floor, a small, poignant detail that spoke volumes about a hasty departure. Most alarmingly, the bedding from the room was completely missing. Under the bed, investigators found a black electrical cord, later identified as compatible with a PlayStation console. In the parking lot, a stone matching the appearance of Char's earring was recovered. These weren't the signs of someone who had checked out or stepped away temporarily. These were the markers of something far more sinister. The rental car parked near Char's room became a focal point for investigators. Tracing the vehicle led them directly to Willie Ellington, the young Marine who had last been seen with Char. Moving swiftly, detectives secured a search warrant for Ellington's phone during a meeting at Naval Air Station Pensacola. What they found on that device would shock even seasoned law enforcement officers. Ellington's search history in the days leading up to meeting Char revealed a disturbing preoccupation with death, murder, and evasion of justice. Among the queries found were: what does a dead body look like after 2 days? How many prostitute murders go unsolved? Can someone scream when they're strangled? What is the statistic of prostitutes' homicides being solved? Sheriff Chip Simmons of the Escambia County Sheriff's Office would later describe these searches as chilling and disturbing, a sentiment shared by all involved in the investigation. But the most damning searches came after Ellington's meeting with Char. Approximately 90 minutes after their encounter, his phone records show searches for defense attorneys and the ominous query, can a murderer be convicted without a body? He also searched for information about whether police could track when someone changes their phone number and whether law enforcement could monitor Snapchat communications. The timeline of these searches, their specific nature, and their relation to Char's disappearance painted a picture not of a crime of passion or opportunity, but of calculation and premeditation. Meanwhile, the search for Téé Bennett continued. Using Ellington's phone data and car rental records, investigators tracked his movements from the Sweet Dreams Inn westward into Alabama, specifically to the Mobile area. On Wednesday, December 18th, 5 days after Char was last seen alive, investigators made the discovery they had been dreading. Her body was found in a small creek in an abandoned neighborhood in Mobile, Alabama, more than 50 miles from where she was last seen in Pensacola. The medical examiner would later determine that while her body was found in Alabama, Char had been killed in Florida, confirming the investigators' theory that she had been transported across state lines after her murder. That same day, law enforcement received a crucial tip. Willie Ellington was attempting to flee the area by bus. Authorities in Alabama were immediately notified, and deputies in Opelika, Alabama, located and apprehended Ellington at a bus station. At the time of his arrest, Ellington was found in possession of a PlayStation console. Notably, the console was missing its power cord, a detail that directly connected to the cord found under the bed in room 130. Further investigation revealed that Ellington had gone AWOL from the Marine Corps and had been selling his belongings before boarding a Greyhound bus, clearly planning to evade capture. As the investigation continued, more disturbing details emerged about Willie Ellington. In addition to the murder charge, a search of his phone uncovered over 50 images and videos depicting child sexual abuse. Authorities also discovered evidence that Ellington had shared these files online, leading to additional charges related to possession and distribution of child pornography. The discovery of these materials added another layer of darkness to an already tragic case, raising troubling questions about the character and prior activities of the man who had taken Téé Bennett's life. The news of Char's murder rippled through both the Pensacola community and her hometown in Texas. Friends and family were left to grapple with the senseless loss of a young woman who had touched so many lives with her warmth and humor. For Jessica Ramirez, the realization that her best friend was gone was devastating. "The person who did it, the coward," Jessica said, "he thought nobody was going to look for her or care. But literally everybody was distraught. Everybody was worried." The timing of Char's death added another layer of heartbreak to the tragedy. Her murder occurred just before her son's 8th birthday, transforming what should have been a day of celebration into one marked by unimaginable loss. "I can't even put it in words how many people cared about this girl," Jessica reflected. "I wish she was here so she could see how many people care about her. I wish..." I don't even know if she knew. In the wake of this tragedy, the community rallied around Cha's son. A GoFundMe campaign was established to provide financial support for the child who now faced growing up without his mother. The campaign description highlighted Cha as a vibrant and devoted mother who had held dreams of creating a brighter future for her child through her educational aspirations. The response was immediate and heartfelt. Within days, the campaign had raised over $9,000, a testament to the impact Cha had made on those around her and the community's desire to support her son during this unimaginable time. On December 19th, Willie Ellington appeared before a judge for his first court hearing. The judge ordered him held without bond until his trial, citing the seriousness of the charges and the risk of flight demonstrated by his attempt to leave the state. Ellington now faces charges of first-degree premeditated murder in connection with Téé Bennett's death, alongside multiple counts related to possession and distribution of child pornography, public order crimes, and obscene communication. Sheriff Chip Simmons reflected on the case during a press conference, suggesting that Ellington had specifically targeted Cha because of her work as an escort, believing her murder would be less likely to be thoroughly investigated. "We think that he used her occupation to go after her," Sheriff Simmons explained. "Like he felt like this was someone that he could victimize and get away with it. He was wrong." The case of Téé Bennett forces us to confront uncomfortable realities about violence, vulnerability, and justice in our society. It reminds us that behind every headline, every statistic, is a human being with hopes, dreams, and loved ones left to mourn. It also highlights the dedication of law enforcement agencies who worked tirelessly across state lines to piece together the evidence that would lead to Ellington's arrest. The collaborative effort between the Escambia County Sheriff's Office and authorities in Alabama ensured that Cha's killer would face justice for his actions. Yet no arrest, no conviction can restore what was lost. A young woman's life was cut short. A child will grow up without his mother. Friends and family are left with memories and questions that can never be fully resolved. In the coastal city of Pensacola, December continues to bring holiday lights and family gatherings. Life moves forward as it must. But for those who knew and loved Téé Bennett, December will forever carry the shadow of her absence. Jessica Ramirez and Cha's other friends now carry the responsibility of keeping her memory alive, especially for her son. They speak of her humor, her kindness, her determination to build a better life. They remember the friend who attended every celebration, who shared in their joys and sorrows, who faced life's challenges with resilience and hope. In their reminiscences, we glimpse the person beyond the headlines, the young woman who was more than the circumstances of her death. We see Téé Bennett as she was in life, a daughter, a friend, a mother who was deeply loved. The legal proceedings against Willie Ellington continue, moving through the methodical process of the justice system. For Cha's loved ones, this represents just one aspect of their journey forward, a journey that will also include grief, healing, and the ongoing challenge of supporting her son through the years ahead. The case of Téé Bennett reminds us of life's fragility and the profound impact violent crime has on families and communities. It stands as a somber testament to the darkness that can exist in our world, but also to the resilience of the human spirit and the bonds that connect us to one another. As we reflect on this tragedy, perhaps the most fitting tribute to Téé Bennett is to remember her not as a victim, but as the vibrant person she was. A young woman with dreams, a devoted mother, someone who brought joy to those around her. In honoring her memory this way, we affirm the value of every life and the importance of seeking justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves. For Jessica Ramirez and all who loved Cha, the journey forward is one of remembrance and advocacy. "I just want people to know who she was," Jessica said, "not just what happened to her, but who she was as a person, as a mother, as a friend."
It was pretty normal for Bennett to keep in
In
touch
sharing
with family and
Cha's story,
friends. So
we
when they
honor her
hadn't heard from
memory
her
and
for a
affirm that her
day, they
life
got
mattered,
worried.
that every life matters, regardless of circumstance or profession. And in the quiet moments, when the headlines have faded and the court proceedings have concluded, Téé Bennett will be remembered by those who knew her best, for her laugh, for her dreams, for the love she had for her son, and for the indelible mark she left on the hearts of those fortunate enough to have known her. In Pensacola, Florida, and beyond, the case of Téé Bennett stands as both a tragedy and a call to vigilance, a reminder that behind every statistic is a human story, and that the pursuit of justice is not just a legal imperative, but a moral one as well. For Téé's son, now growing up without his mother, the community's continued support offers a small measure of comfort in the face of immeasurable loss. In rallying around this child, in ensuring that he knows how deeply his mother was loved, perhaps there is a pathway toward healing, not just for him but for all those affected by this profound tragedy. As we conclude this examination of the case of Téé Bennett, we do so with respect for her life and for the grief of those who mourn her. We acknowledge the complexity of human experience and the imperative of compassion in the face of suffering. And we remember Téé Bennett not as a headline, but as a human being whose life and dreams deserve to unfold, a mother, a friend, a woman, whose story deserves to be told with dignity and whose memory deserves to be honored.